the inaugural show here on YouTube. We've come back after going to Twitter Spaces for a while. I think we're still streaming to Twitter Spaces. So all those people over there on Twitter, not on Spaces, on Twitter, like live stream, hi, and Facebook and LinkedIn as well. Today on the show we have Aiden from Decentralab joining us to talk about all things. And Aiden has been around for a long time building in this space. So it's great to have someone that's tried a bunch of different ideas in the smart contract space and built a few different concepts out successfully. So Aiden, welcome.
Thanks, Josh. So I suppose I'll give a bit more of an introduction of myself. So as Josh mentioned, my name's Aiden. I'm biz dev lead at Decentralab. And my day today is basically talking kind of in podcasts like this with other projects, looking for new ways that we can collaborate, help build the space. I've been in the space for about 3 and a bit years now, both working in the space and just personally. From payment processors, now Decentralab is doing a bunch of other stuff as well. So yeah, without further ado, we can kind of jump into some of the platforms. And I mean, if you had any I think we've got a bit of connection issues. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. It wigged out a little bit there for a second, but it seems all right now. Yeah.
But so if you had any questions you wanted to ask, or we can just jump into kind of explaining a bit more about Decentralab if you like.
Yeah. Let's talk about what was the basis behind Decentralab, because everyone has. It seems like you guys have built a whole bunch of different projects, and just to wrap around the basics.
Is there a way for me to share my screen here? Because if I can share my screen, then I can give the audience a bit of a kind of a look at what we're
there sure is
as well.
If you hit share screen down the bottom, are you allowed to do that?
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, brilliant. So now we're just on the Decentralab homepage. First of all, we'll give a bit of history. So Decentralab started off back in 2017 as a project called 2Key, as you can see listed down here. 2Key was a very interesting project. It was a link tracking platform that basically allowed users to mint smart links and then track the data that went through them and attribute every click on a certain link with a wallet that's either attributed to that browser or that's created if one isn't present. So it was a very, very powerful tool for kind of affiliate programs and things of that nature. We've had a lot of projects reaching out to us actually looking to use the solution as well. But unfortunately, we launched it back in 2017 on Ethereum, back when gas fees were nice and cheap. And unfortunately, I mean, with the growth of the network, the gas fees pretty much killed the project. I mean, when we launched it, it was roughly 50 cents to mint a new smart link, and it got to a stage where it was like $50. So it just was economically unviable. But in any case, it pretty much gave us the launch pad to develop into Decentralab. And we
just on that point, a lot of people talk about, it doesn't really, price doesn't matter and this and that and the other, but these things really do have an impact. Like when we were running Vaultoro, which was the very first Bitcoin physical gold exchange, we launched in 2014. We built it launched very early 2015. And like Bitcoin was really cheap to send. It was just super, and those promises of banking the unbanked and all that stuff that early crypto people were all about sort of went away when the blocks became full and all this other stuff. And actually, because of that, Vaultoro was the first exchange to implement the Lightning Network when it did finally have.
I dropped out for a couple of seconds there. Could you just shoot back 10 seconds?
Yep. Because the blocks were getting full and all these promises were getting broken, it was very, very hard for people to use our service, which was basically an exchange. But we then became the very first Bitcoin exchange to launch the Lightning Network abilities, and that we were really early. It was back when #reckless was a thing, and but yeah, a lot of people say, oh, it doesn't matter, price doesn't matter about any of this, but it does matter, and yeah, like you guys saw, if the price doesn't, if the price of the network, it doesn't match the promise of the protocol, then it kills the protocol as well, kills the project.
If you're talking about price of gas fees, then I don't know who hasn't said it doesn't matter, because it 100% matters. I mean, it needs to be usable. It needs to be kind of something that suits what you're actually trying to do on the network. So, for example, I mean, obviously, the cheaper the better.
Well, when I say it doesn't matter, that people would say, they say, oh, what's the price of Bitcoin today, or what's the price of Ethereum? Because the price of Ethereum also affects the gas price in a way, because if it goes way up, then everything else goes way up too, So, but if it's way down, it also affects it.
Yeah. If you're talking about kind of earlier networks like BTC, Ethereum, that really the gas price is heavily correlated with the price, and you've got just such a huge amount of users on the network and no real solution for scalability, that is a bubble that will eventually burst. Eventually, networks that don't have a way to scale properly along with their price will eventually reach kind of a cap that people don't want to use that network anymore, or you'll just have loads and loads of people having tokens on the main network, for example, so on Ethereum, and then doing pretty much all of their transactions on an L2 like Arbitrum or Avalanche and things like that, which is what we're seeing a lot of projects do now. I mean, I'll get into this in a second, but another one of our platforms is Chainport. It's our bridge. And a lot of the projects that we work with, I mean, obviously everyone is still keen to be on Ethereum and have access to that liquidity and to all the users that are still there. Because, I mean, Ethereum is still over half of the liquidity in the whole market is still on Ethereum. And so, like I said, a lot of projects are deploying on Ethereum, coming to us, and then bridging pretty much all of their tokens to another EVM or another L2 or something like that, like Base, for example, and pretty much just doing everything there.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, just because something's expensive, like a city like Berlin or London is expensive because a lot of people live there, and it's not expensive because it's useless and it's crap. It's because a lot of people are living there and enjoying it. So, just sometimes sometimes I don't fully agree with, if it's expensive, then it means everyone will jump ship and go to a different blockchain. It's expensive because all the liquidity's there. So it does. It's a weird mechanic. I find it a fascinating mechanic of this sort of price of a chain getting too expensive to use, but still having, like, a lot of the NFTs were on Ethereum still because and they were selling for really a big price because the gas fees for transferring them was so much. So it was only worth buying an NFT that was worth thousands of dollars at the time because the gas fees were like,
I mean,
so much.
I think in general, it's difficult to look at something straightforward in crypto and say that, oh, that's this is kind of what it is objectively, so this is how it's going to be. So I'll give an example. I mean, as you said, Ethereum is one of the most expensive chains to use, but still has the most amount of users, simply because in Web3, it takes a while to get used to things. People are naturally untrusting of new networks and new protocols and things like that. And people like what they're used to, and they like what other people are using as well. I mean, a big part of Web3 is marketing, obviously. Which is why we've had so many meme coins that objectively have absolutely no use. They're just kind of funny. But
Crazy.
they do hundreds of millions in volume because, I mean, that's Web3. People see something funny, see a bit of marketing, it reaches the right people, it manages to catch the right trend, and it's there. And which is why when people say, oh, Solana is going to overtake it one day. They say we're going to have a flippening of BTC and Ethereum as well. I think eventually those things may happen, but it will take a lot longer, or a series of serious catastrophes with those protocols for something like that to actually happen.
Yeah, interesting. So what else you got there on your? So you started off with the link. That's a great idea, by the way. It's very original. I haven't seen that in the space. And you go to these conferences, you see the same thing over and over. Oh, we do ticketing in NFTs, like the amount of ticketing in NFTs, and it's never like this is the first time I've seen a link, a shortening or tracking mechanism based on public-private key pairs.
Yeah, it is definitely one of our most interesting platforms. But now, probably this year, we're going to be looking at rebuilding it from the ground up.
Wow.
We have to make it scalable, and that includes choosing a new network to deploy it on that will be able to facilitate the kind of scaling of the network itself and of the project. And we want to see how we can, regardless of the network that we deploy, and we can maintain the scalability of the project itself, so that even if the network grows, we're not in the same predicament again, where it's just ridiculously expensive to use.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, since Tuki, we developed into Decentralab. Decentralab is kind of similar to Consensus in that we have a bunch of products under our belt. All are developed by us from the ground up. We have multiple teams within Decentralab dedicated to each of the projects, and we have team members like myself who kind of in biz dev and marketing, things like that, who cover multiple platforms. So just to kind of quickly breeze through them from an overview standpoint, our flagship product is Chainport. It's our bridge. It's currently one of, if not the largest, alt bridge in the space, currently hovering at around 400 million in TVL. We are one of, if not the only, custodian bridges in the space as well, who have never been hacked or had any security incidents, which is an unfortunate brag, but still a brag in and of itself. Pretty much every other bridge in the space has been hacked or breached at some point or another, so we're pretty.
It's a scary brag to make as well, like because we talk about that with Voltoro. It's been around since 2015, never had a hack. Every time I say it, I think some like really genius hacker in Russia or something is just sitting there going, oh yes, well, let's have a look. Yeah. No, but well done. And it's hard because these people are trying to attack us, Voltoro, all the time, and I'm sure they're doing the same for your protocols all the time. So it's a great feat, and it's a really good brag, like you said. It's an unfortunate one, but
I'll touch a little bit on the security of Chainport in a second. Actually, you know what? Let me just jump into the platform straight away. We can cover the other platforms when we get to them. But as I mentioned, Chainport's a custodian bridge. So what that means is we use external custodians to secure our tokens. We currently have partnerships with Gnosis Safe and Fireblocks. And we store, if I go to our security page, we actually store around 95% of our TVL in these cold vaults, in these cold multi-sig vaults. In essence, making the bridge or the tokens on the bridge inaccessible, totally inaccessible, which in essence makes us a centralized bridge, and we're not shy about saying that. We believe that centralized bridging at this point in time is the safest way to bridge. Ideally, we would like to be fully decentralized, because of course we have that stigma in Web3 that people only want to work with decentralized platforms. Centralization is kind of frowned upon. But it was just our opinion that we didn't want our bridge and the hundreds of millions of tokens that we have stored on it to be secured simply by the security of our smart contract. We see so many smart contracts being audited multiple times by huge auditors, and still vulnerabilities are found. You just have to go forward enough in time. So we decided to kind of take that element out of the equation, be totally centralized, have our tokens inaccessible, only have the 5% of the tokens that are on the hot bridge contract at any given time have any sort of vulnerability, even though we do have ongoing monitoring 24/7. We have pause functions for the bridge. And large transactions have to be manually verified as well, kind of like if you were to withdraw a huge amount from a SEX. And we do have some projects that kind of come to us and say, oh, we're not really too comfortable working with a centralized bridge. But at the end of the day, most bridges in and of themselves are centralized just by the way their architecture works. Because at the end of the day, you do have someone who has to bridge those tokens and who has a portion of your locked tokens locked in some sort of wallet or contract or something like that.
I wonder how like Mika and all these sort of silly regulators will because there's all this infrastructure, things like this, which aren't traditional wallets or anything like that. But that's what I find so frustrating about the regulatory space, is that they try to paint everything with one brush, and they have no idea what they're destroying in the future because of some silly.
I mean, when we're talking about kind of regulation and things like, we do meet a lot of kind of standards in terms of international regulation, working with government regulation and things like that. What I'm more specifically talking about, though, is just people's opinions. I mean, a lot of projects, just as a principle, don't work with anything centralized because it defeats the purpose of Web3. That's kind of the general opinion. But
well, you could say, like, if you have enough multi-sig keys, then it's also decentralized, because if you have if you have 200 keys, not that that's how many you've got, but if then there's so how many is that? Is it 60? Is it 6? Is it 10? Is it 12? The amount of keys matters. So you can say it's decentralized in terms of power structure. Yeah, it's not decentralized in terms of the contract specifically.
Yeah, I mean, if your definition of decentralized is that one person can't take over the bridge, then we're decentralized.
Exactly.
The bridge does need multiple people for it to actually function and to be able to move tokens and things like that. But I mean, in any case, we are fully transparent. So even though we aren't decentralized, we show everyone where all the funds are located. We have a transparency page here as well, where people can take a look at our vaults, see where all the tokens are located, that you can check our deployer addresses as well, deployer contracts. So we try and be as decentralized as we can while still being centralized and secure. And yeah, that is Chainport. Pretty much. We have roughly 20 chains integrated so far. We are constantly integrating new chains. So any L1s, L2s, preferably EVMs, looking for new bridging opportunities, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. We do generally look at integrating EVMs more, just because the integration is a lot easier. I mean, non-EVMs, while some do have more interesting architectures that may be even better than what we currently have with our current EVMs, for example, Solana, the integration process is just a lot more expensive and takes a lot longer. So we're generally looking more at EVMs, but I mean, bottom line, if we have enough demand, anything goes. Other stuff we can say about Chainport is we have multiple bridging architectures, so we can work. So we have wrapped asset bridging, we have native token bridging, so we can work with projects who have bridged with other bridges in the past as well, using their existing tokens. We've integrated CCTP, CCIP, so we have external protocols as well. We've integrated LeFi as well. So we're just trying to take kind of bridging protocols from everywhere, aggregate them as well. We have our own architecture as well. And yeah, that is pretty much Chainport.
Yeah, awesome, nice, good old bridges. They're very important. I think it's such an interesting space. I think the bridges are one of the most vulnerable areas in the space because they are such massive honeypots, and so security in the form, and like you said, there's been a bunch of massive high-profile hacks on bridges. So in one way, having it more centralized is safer. Yeah, it's not as safe for like government entities and stuff to crack down on it, but it can be looked at as safer because you don't have the attack vectors of blind attack vectors that we still don't understand and in the DeFi space. as much, or in the smart contract space. So yeah, it's always like I'm not as black and white about the whole thing of decentralization as some people are. I think it has its place, decentralization, and the reason why Satoshi created Bitcoin in the first place was because it was very dangerous to create a private monetary system, because with any sort of scale, you're taking on banks, governments, industrial military complexes, industrial oil complexes, like just everything. So yeah, no, good stuff. What was the mail one that I saw down there? Project that looked interesting. You guys just do so many different things. It's amazing. Uh, I saw something with was it Horde Decentral the Web3 index? Web3 index? No.
Yeah,
Maybe I read it wrong.
no, we can jump onto Web3 Index though. So Web3 Index is actually our newest platform. It's still in beta. We haven't built any business models surrounding it yet. It's still very, very early stage. But it was in essence an idea that we had internally, and this was a tool that we originally wanted to develop for in-house use. And it's a biz dev tool that aggregates, or is trying to aggregate, all of the projects in the space. Every day we aggregate, so all of these projects you see here have been aggregated today. And we categorize them into the following categories, and basically just give kind of information about the project itself. Now, this isn't just for tokens, so it's not exactly the same as CMC or CoinGecko, but it's also for service providers. So, I mean, we have VCs here, for example, auditors and things like that. And it's really meant to be a biz dev tool for making outreach a lot easier, discovering new projects. Now, as I mentioned, it is still in beta. So actually, let me see if we've managed to aggregate.
Yeah, sorry. When you scrolled past it before, I thought it said Web3 inbox. So that's why I was like, what's that because I've been looking for a way to send like sats or something small with an email that if somebody wants to email me, they need to attach like a tiny bit of crypto and it would go to a charity or something if I read your mail, just to stop any spam, and everything else goes to a different inbox so that if I like sign up to a service that sends me a verification email, I'll still get that. But yeah, I think that needs to be done. If you're out there, folks, and you got some time to twiddle, do it, make it happen. It's actually Adam Back's original idea of having pay for mail stamps.
I think something like that would have to be integrated into an already existing architecture. I don't think someone can create an email system or a messaging system specifically with crypto built in and bring over all of the users that use traditional email or messaging and things like that. It would have to be something that you can integrate within your Gmail, for example.
Yeah, it would be some sort of extension, Gmail extension. And then if an email comes in without it, you could just auto email them back saying, hey, you need to attach a sat, do that here, or something, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard because not enough people have got
You need to pay to talk to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, anyway, Web3 Index, it's a cool little kind of idea. We're still exploring it. We're still seeing if people like it. If I just jump into kind of a project, here we have auditors here. So if I just jump into a random page. Now, the information that we've currently aggregated is still pretty basic. But what we're doing at the moment is we're asking projects to claim ownership of their pages, and you can edit all the information, add kind of more metrics. And if we haven't managed to aggregate you, then you can submit your project. It's entirely free. There's no business model for the platform at the moment. Everything is fully open to the public. If you have any feedback, you can talk to our team as well. We're more than happy to receive feedback. And in future iterations, we do want to improve upon all of these pages, all the platforms. So we're going to try and have contact information for that project, just to make biz dev a little bit easier. For example, here we're in auditors, so we have previous auditors or previous audits. For our VC category, we'd want to have previous investments, next investment rounds, things like that. And just to really make it a invaluable tool for BD, for marketing, for finding service providers, and just kind of navigating your way around the space.
Yeah, there's a tool similar to this, but for the AI space, called Future Tools, and it's just a great tool, yeah, to find good AI projects. So this looks like very useful. I'll definitely check it out.
What tool is that?
It's called futuretools.io, I think.
Okay, interesting.
Future Tools.
Have a look at that. Maybe we can adopt some of their.
I think it's futuretools.io. It should be .ai really, because it's an AI thing. But anyway, there you go.
Brilliant. Okay, so I suppose I'll jump onto another one of our platforms. So next up, we have TokensFarm. Now, TokensFarm was launched as a solution to a hurdle that we found with Chainport, where we had a lot of projects coming to us wanting to go cross-chain, but they didn't necessarily have the funds to supply liquidity on multiple chains at once. So our solution was typically to tell projects to incentivize their community to help them supply liquidity. So, for example, to do an LP farm, a liquidity pool farm. But naturally, most projects don't know how to do that themselves. So we started off doing it a few times just off the cuff for some projects, and then we developed it into a platform. And now TokensFarm has become kind of a farm as a service platform. So we do white label solutions for liquidity pool farms, for staking farms, so single asset staking. We do vesting contracts as well, token minting. So it's kind of everything a project needs to launch a token, basically. And this is kind of a trend that's that goes along with quite a few of our platforms. A lot of our platforms do cater very well to early stage projects. I mean, we have an auditing branch as well. And so those working together do kind of give a project all the tools they need to start off kind of their first year in launching a token and everything like that. So if I go a little bit deeper into TokensFarm, this here, as you can see, this is the farm marketplace. These are a few current farms that we have live. Everything is fully customizable and fully audited. If I just jump into one of the farms as well, take a look. So this, for example, is a Chirpley staking farm. They have decided to put the farm at 180 days duration, minimum staking time of 50 days. They've added additional rewards in their token to increase the APY as well, to make it a little bit more attractive. And of course, everything is fully transparent. We have all the farm metrics, token staked over time, transaction history, and all that good stuff.
And does that work with just Uniswap or?
No, so this works on all major dexes on all EVMs.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty versatile platform. If I click here, these are the chains that we've had farms on so far. But any EVM pretty much that wants to deploy a farm can come to us, and we can have that running within probably less than a day. And yeah, I mean, our LP farms work on V2 and V3. So people looking for liquidity lockers or LP farms for V2, V3, we support that too. And of course, like all the partnerships that we do with all of our platforms, we do co-marketing with projects and everything like that. We've had 164 farms to date, currently hovering at just over 5 million or just over 6 million in TVL. And peak of the market, it was just shy of 70 million in TVL. So it has gone down a little bit, but markets have been picking up, and we are seeing more traffic towards the site in recent times too. Everything, of course, as I mentioned, is white label. So we have API endpoints as well that can allow you to embed these farms into your own platform. So if you don't want to send your users to TokensFarm, it is fully white label. And generally tends to work out a lot cheaper than developing something in-house. I mean, the deployment of the farms that we have here are 4,500. which is a one-time payment. And if you're developing an in-house staking solution, you could be talking upwards of 70,000 just for developer costs, auditing costs, things like that. So we do have a lot of projects, for example, like Cornucopias and XCAD, who have pretty much just continued using us exclusively for their staking and LP requirements, because it's cheaper and more efficient. Our contracts are very versatile. They have a lot of features that you'd be paying a lot for a developer to include in a contract. And we have it ready. It's customizable. It's there. So for most projects that we work with, we tell them there is really no point in going and developing something from scratch. It's a waste of time and money.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's TokensFarm.
Yeah, I mean, there are like certain dexes like Camelot have their own version of that already built in, but there's the bigger exchange, the bigger dexes, the more established ones like Uniswap don't. So I could, and most projects do want to launch on something like Uni. So that's really handy.
The thing with a lot of dexes that have the LP solutions is they have a native token for that platform. TokensFarm doesn't have a token. And so for all those dexes, the rewards that you're given in your LP farms are in the platform's tokens. And a lot of the time, those platforms' tokens don't actually have any other added utility other than maybe, I don't know, lowering fees on the platform, which in my opinion isn't really a justifiable utility. But in the long run, it's just not sustainable. TokensFarm doesn't have a token. You can add the rewards in any token you want, so it can be in the token that's being staked.
How many tokens can you reward
simultaneously on the same contract?
Yeah.
No, so you can reward with one type of token each time. So for example, if I deploy a farm and I want to give out the rewards in Ethereum, I can do that. If I want to give them USDT, I can do that. I can't do both Ethereum and USDT. I can deploy two farms and give out multiple types of rewards. But on the same contract is just but it's in any token you want. So we're not limited to a platform token or to the token being staked or anything like that.
Yeah, it would definitely be cool to see an upgrade to that, to have multiple tokens dished out. As we're building the standard out, we're partnering with a bunch of different protocols that all have different tokens. So it's great to trade with them. So we take some of their protocol tokens that we're partnering with and stick it in something like TokensFarm and allow LP to be able to get rewarded in like, I don't know, 20 different tokens or something like that. That'd be useful.
I mean, if we see demand for it, then yeah, I mean, we're always open to developing whatever's needed out there. I mean, we have a very talented development team. The team is quite large now. We're getting upwards of 50 people. So in terms of development ability, we can do pretty much anything, but it's just an issue of seeing if people want to use it. If it's not just going to increase our overhead.
No, I just throw that out there, Yeah. How are you guys earning money? Like, is it through the bridge? Does the bridge earn any money?
So the bridge itself, there's no integration fee or anything like that. We do take specific grants for certain chains if we're unable to reach a certain volume. But the bridge does have fees. So it's a very minimal fee. It's 0.3%. And of that, we actually only take 10% of it back to the company for development costs. But in essence, this is the breakdown. So we give 20% of the fees back to the project itself. So for example, if you have a project bridging with us, 20% of the fees of their users bridging go back to the project. We give 20% for participation rewards for Portex stakers. We give 20% for introductions to projects so if you were introduced me to a project who would then bridge with us, I would give you 20% of their fees. And yeah, we only take basically 10% off of that. So it's not a huge money maker where it will require huge amounts of volume to be really kind of profitable. But
I mean, 400 million's not a kick, it's no kick in the
Yeah,
pants.
no, we are. We're doing quite well, and especially since multi-chain collapsed, we've had a lot of tokens migrating over to us.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's our philosophy that if you do something properly and you do it well for long enough, then eventually people will kind of catch on.
Yeah.
And Chainport's been live for about 3 years now. People are quite happy with the service and how it works, and how it's continuing to develop. And yeah, eventually it will be kind of fully profitable. But I mean, we do have other avenues of income as well. I mean, TokensFarm is a paid service, so each deployment of a farm is basically just kind of a payment for that. We have our auditing branch as well, which of course, I mean, audits cost money, so we kind of give a quote and then that's what it is. Even though we are comparatively cheap, because we believe that audit prices, especially from high-level auditors like Certec, Hack, and things like that, have just gone absolutely ridiculous in pricing, especially given the fact that half of their contracts get hacked anyway. We do it for cheaper and better, in my opinion.
Auditing is it's amazing. It's an amazing business model. There's so many shonky auditors out there. As we looked around to try and get our stuff audited, it was a really hard choice, and we went with Cypherin at the end and Codehawks because we wanted a competitive audit. But yeah, we were the amount of people that just basically are just a bunch of coders that have basically fresh off the boat and not really they've just come out of school and are throwing stuff through GPT and saying, oh look, GPT found a vulnerability. So yeah, it's important to have a good auditing company, and yeah, it's good to see you guys put your great devs on
the unfortunate thing is, even auditing companies that you would expect to give high-level audits, so like Certec, Hacken, just don't, because we've seen that they've reached such a level of fame, let's call it, that they get so many auditing requests that they don't really have to do much marketing or much biz dev or anything like that. They just have people coming to them with audits. They don't have enough devs to properly do all of those audits. So they hire a lot of junior devs. They rely very, very heavily on static tools to do a lot of the heavy lifting for them. And then charge 50K for an audit that should be 5K.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's just ridiculous. And we kind of saw that when we launched Diligence about just over a year ago. And we simply said to ourselves, right, we can do this better for cheaper. The final straw was actually a huge audit that we did with another very large auditing company. This was like a 6-figure audit. It was incredibly expensive and very, very long. It was multiple contracts. And whenever we send things off for audits, we intentionally put in vulnerabilities just to make sure that the audit was done properly. And the majority of the vulnerabilities that we put in weren't found.
Wow.
And
that's
that
amazing.
Yeah, and think of a situation, you're paying 6 figures for an audit and you've in essence been screwed over.
Yeah.
And so we at that stage said, right, if this is kind
enough
of
is enough.
Enough is enough. And if this is the level that we need to reach in order to make money off this and actually kind of work in the auditing space, then we are already way above this level. Let's start doing auditing as well. We said we would start off with our existing clients. So as I mentioned, a lot of the projects we work with at early stage, they have an audit in the cards anyway. So we said, right, we'll start with them. We'll kind of give complimentary audits, or we'll give kind of very, very, very cheap audits just to start off, see how we do. And yeah, I mean, the past year has been really fantastic. All of our clients have been really pleased with the service. Even though our team are quite pedantic and can be quite annoying at times. So we we will kind of annoy you and jump on calls with you and tell you why your code isn't right, and how to change it. But at the end of the ordeal, you will have a impenetrable contract.
Nice.
And we think that's worth it. I mean, we always jump on calls with people. We talk to them like we're talking here. We don't just have an interface that you put in your contract. Some AI checks it and pumps out an audit for you within a day. We take our time and we do things properly. And most importantly, well, not most importantly, but importantly as well, we are relatively cheap. So that's diligence as well.
Yeah, good. Well, I would stay away from the impenetrable word, because that is a very intense word. But most likely impenetrable. It kind of like anything in mathematics. There is a small chance, always, and this is why it's just so important to. I was talking to someone the other day about how smart contracts, why it's good to have quite expensive block space is specifically on EVMs, is because the smart contracts, if you have infinite block space and anyone can write any old shit smart contract with that's hundreds of lines of code, then you open yourself up to way more vulnerabilities. And you see that like with original programmers that used to have to program for a floppy disk, used to have to really focus and almost do stuff in machine code, because that's how you get the smallest. And some of the earliest games that were cracked, they would have these demos at the front, and they would the competitions with how much cool stuff, graphics can you put in the smallest amount of space, and that really allows for developers to really just become obsessed with a single function to try to make that as neat as possible. And by doing that, a byproduct of that is less attack surface, because you're just obsessing with how do I make this bunch of code as small as possible, and leave out stuff that's not really needed. And we've seen with computers in general, now that you can just have a super powerful computer for $500, how much computer programmers, they just put out the most filthiest code. They don't care. It's not about, like, the grunt power to run the code isn't really worried about anymore. So and that's still there in the blockchain space. People have to worry about the code base, so it's kind of good. Sorry to diverge there a little bit, but that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, that is an interesting topic as well. I think it's more relevant for, as you mentioned, kind of processing power and just in general making things cheaper, as opposed to attack. I mean, of course, it influences attack vectors as well. But I mean, attack vectors, a simple code that is too simple can have kind of attack vectors as well. Or if you find an attack vector in that, it can attribute to pretty much all of your contracts as well. So kind of there's that. There's compartmentalizing your code as well in order to make it a little less vulnerable. But yeah, I definitely agree that we have reached a stage, especially with now AI being able to write most of our code for us. It's kind of, people are slowly forgetting kind of how to write their own code and how to write beautiful code. Not that I'm know how to write fantastic code. I did a few coding courses kind of in the past, but nothing that I can that I would feel comfortable bragging about.
Yeah. Good. Well, how do people get in touch with you and reach out to you, Aidan? If they like what they've seen, how do they stay in touch or get in touch?
So the best way is either through my direct Telegram, or you can even just jump to the Decentralab page here and click contact, and you can set up a call with me directly right there.
Oh, that's dangerous. Do you get spam? Do you get calendar spam, or is it all right?
No, not so much actually. I mean, if let's put it this way: if we get huge enough to the stage that we get calendar spam, then that would make me very happy.
Yeah, nice.
If we
Half
get if we get
cup,
so,
cup
yeah,
half full. Hey,
yeah. I mean, if we get
yeah,
so many
nice.
requests that we can't have the contact button on the page, then yeah, we're
Then
in a very
yeah.
good. But
Well,
but
folks, just a quick wrap up from us. I know if I don't want to leave you too long here. We've been working very diligently on our code audit. It's almost done. We had like almost 200 people attacking us and giving us reports, and that's almost done. So once that's done, we are going to be repegging the EuroS, and we'll be launching. We're making an amazing plan right now, talking to a whole bunch of protocols. We just had a great meeting with AG Euro as well as J Euro, and we'll be making a main trading pair with another Euro stablecoin. This will make it a lot easier for LP to become LP because there won't be any sort of forex market impermanent loss. There's going to be a whole bunch of things, really great incentives coming, co-incentivizing with a bunch of good protocols as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. Basically, we're lining up all our ducks right now before we say fire, and so yeah, stay tuned. Please, this is a new channel. Hit that like button so that the algorithms, help us out. And yeah, until next time, see you around the rabbit hole.
bye everyone.